You stay up, screen glowing, and the world asleep. And somewhere in your mind, a question flickers. Why do the hours after midnight feel sharper? Why do ideas arrive when they should not? Why does bedtime at 11 feel like a prison sentence, but 1 in the morning feels like freedom? Smart people go to bed late. Study after study confirms it. But here's what nobody tells you. Fighting it might be killing you, not metaphorically. Actually killing you. Let me show you what the science says and why every alarm clock you have ever set might be working against your brain. Ages 18 to 28. The researchers want to know one thing. Do childhood IQ scores predict adult sleep patterns? The answer hits like cold water. Yes, clear as daylight. Children with higher IQ scores grew up to be nocturnal adults, not by a little, by a measurable, undeniable margin. Very bright participants, IQ above 125, average bedtime at 12:29 in the morning. Very dull participants, IQ below 75, average bedtime at 11:41 at night. A 48-minute difference, consistent, persistent, present on both weekdays and weekends. But intelligence, Kanazawa argues, evolved to handle evolutionarily novel situations, problems our ancestors never faced. More intelligent individuals are better equipped to adopt evolutionarily novel preferences, like staying up late, like living by artificial light, like ignoring the ancient pull of darkness. The theory sparks debate. Critics question the evolutionary framework, but the data remains. Night owls test higher on IQ assessments. The pattern repeats across studies, tracking 15,197 participants from the AdHealth study and from scientific reports published by Nature in April 2020, which analyzed German Mensa members with IQ over 130 against matched controls using the Munich chronotype questionnaire database. Now back to the information. Franziska Preckel and colleagues publish a meta-analysis in Learning and Individual Differences. They examine every study, linking chronotype to cognitive ability up to that point. 2,177 participants for morningness analyses. 1,519 participants for eveningness analyses. Small but significant correlations emerge. Eveningness correlates positively with intelligence. Correlation coefficient, 0.075. Morningness correlates negatively. Correlation coefficient, negative 0.042. Small numbers, real effects. The evening types edge ahead. At the time when morning people should dominate, the night owls still won. Something deeper than preference was at work. The average score in their sample sits at 702.6, 90th percentile. These are not average people, but even among the elite, chronotype matters. Night owls score higher, both men and women. The lowest score in the sample is 560. Everyone is above average, but the night owls pull further ahead. The researchers measure baseline cortisol, they check for confounds. The effect holds. Evening types outperform morning types among the already exceptional. They ask a simple question: are you a morning person or an evening person? The results arrive clear and sharp. Evening types score about 13.5% higher than morning types in one group, 7.5% higher in another group. Intermediate types also do better, 10.6% and 6.3% higher than morning types. Published in BMJ Public Health in July 2024. The pattern holds even in older adults. The advantage persists. Reaction time stretches. The night owls who sleep enough dominate. The night owls who sacrifice sleep for more hours awake pay the price. Early chronotypes show significantly lower gray matter volumes in specific brain regions: right lingual gyrus, occipital fusiform gyrus, occipital pole. Compared to intermediate types, they also show lower volumes in the left anterior insula, precuneus, inferior parietal cortex, and right pars triangularis compared to late chronotypes. Published in Brain Structure and Function. The brain physically reflects when you go to bed. Your chronotype is not just preference, it is structure, architecture, physical reality encoded in neural tissue. Sleepiness follows different curves. The brain's wiring reflects its schedule. Evening brains wire differently than morning brains. Not better or worse in some absolute sense. Different, optimized for different times. Age-related changes in chronotype usually begin after 40 to 50 years. Early chronotypes were associated with difficulty sustaining attention, low verbal fluency, and poor executive control skills. In a study by Demirji and colleagues with 180 participants, evening chronotypes exhibited better performance in information processing speed. A massive UK biobank study with 477,529 participants found evening types performed better on all cognitive tasks except digital memory. Morning types had worse cognitive function than intermediate types. The evidence accumulates. The pattern repeats. Night owls think differently. The world demands you awake at 7, 6, sometimes 5. If your brain naturally peaks at 11 at night and wants to sleep at 2 in the morning, you are fighting a war. Every single day. The war has a name: social jet lag. Accumulate sleep debt Monday through Friday. crash on weekends, sleep until noon, your body tries to recover, Monday arrives, the cycle repeats. You travel between time zones without ever leaving your city, jet lag without the jet, chronic, unrelenting, harmful. The correlations hit hard. Associations between chronotype, well-being, and stimulant use are strongest in teenagers and young adults up to age 25. The most striking correlation exists between chronotype and smoking, significantly higher in late chronotypes of all ages, except those in retirement. When social demands vanish, the health gap narrows. The researchers conclude work and school schedules should be adapted to chronotype whenever possible. Few listen. Objective measurements. They test for cardiovascular disease risk. The results chill. Evening chronotype correlates with higher triglycerides. Lower HDL cholesterol. Social jet lag correlates with higher triglycerides. Higher fasting insulin. Higher insulin resistance. Higher waist circumference. Higher BMI. Lower HDL cholesterol. The effects persist even after controlling for sleep duration, health behaviors, and depression. Social jet lag predicts metabolic dysregulation. Independent of how much you sleep, the mismatch itself damages you. Clock gene expression in white adipose tissue changes. Your fat cells receive mixed messages. Insulin sensitivity drops. Inflammation rises. 2021, a comprehensive review in nutrients by Luisa Romero Ferrero and colleagues. They examined social jet lag and related health risks. The data is overwhelming. 2/3 of the studying and working population in industrialized countries experiences social jet lag, often for several years, decades, the entire span of a career. The health consequences pile up: obesity, metabolic syndrome, depression, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, increased mortality risk, late chronotype associates with worse health outcomes across multiple domains, mental health, physical health. The reason is social jet lag, the mismatch between biological and social timing. Longitudinal studies find associations between chronotype and mortality. The evening types die younger, not because evening preference kills, because society kills evening types by forcing them into morning schedules, by demanding they override their biology, by making them accumulate years of circadian disruption. No difference in chronotype between Mensa members and controls, none. High IQ individuals do not have later chronotypes, but they do go to bed later on workdays, significantly later. The difference completely disappears on free days. When social demands vanish, so does the sleep timing difference. What explains it? Later work start times. High IQ individuals tend to have jobs with flexible schedules. They work later. They sleep later on workdays. Their chronotype is not later. Their circumstances are different. When you let them choose, they sleep like everyone else. But Shu finds high IQ adults show no chronotype difference when work schedules are controlled. The truth sits somewhere in the middle. Intelligence may correlate weakly with evening preference, but the stronger pattern is this. Intelligent people find ways to avoid morning schedules. They become professors with afternoon classes, programmers who work from home, writers who choose their hours, entrepreneurs who set their own meetings. They escape the 9 to 5 trap, not by having different biology, by having more options, more control, more ability to design life around their natural rhythms, rather than forcing their rhythms to match an arbitrary schedule. Most people experience chronic sleep deprivation Monday through Friday and hypersomnia on weekends. Most people live in permanent social jet lag, and the cost accumulates in their cells, their tissues, their blood chemistry, their neural architecture. Also, this script is researched and factual, using sources from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, published in December 2015 by Hall and colleagues, analyzing 447 participants with actigraphy-measured social jet lag and cardiovascular markers, and from the eBiomedicine Journal published in The Lancet in September 2025 by Abigail Dove and colleagues at Karolinska Institutet, analyzing 27,500 UK biobank participants, measuring brain age acceleration linked to poor sleep patterns. Now back to the information. Early chronotype: 7 to 8 hours daily sleep, no insomnia, no snoring, no excessive daytime sleepiness, 0 to 5 points. Healthy sleep pattern is 4 or more points. Intermediate is 2 to 3 points. Poor is 1 or 0 points. They use machine learning to estimate brain age from MRI scans. The results are stark. For every 1 point decrease in healthy sleep score, brain age increases by about 6 months. People with poor sleep have brains that appear on average 1 year older than their actual age. Published in eBiomedicine, the gap between brain age and a chronological age widens. Sleep quality literally ages your brain. The mechanism involves low-grade inflammation. Inflammatory biomarkers partially mediate the link between poor sleep and older brain age. About 10% of the effect goes through inflammation. The rest remains mysterious. Direct cellular damage, impaired lymphatic clearance during sleep, accumulated metabolic waste, protein aggregation. The brain needs sleep to clean itself. Deprive it, and toxins accumulate. Neurons suffer, connections weaken, structure degrades. They assess chronotype using the Children's Chronotype Questionnaire. They measure language processing, episodic memory, brain structure via MRI. Evening preference in children associates with better language and memory performance, but it also associates with reduced gray matter volume in regions including the left inferior frontal gyrus. The relationship is complex. Evening types show cognitive advantages, but they also show structural differences that may carry risks. The trade-offs emerge early. Before work schedules impose social jet lag, the biology precedes the social consequences. The researchers use machine learning to identify 5 distinct chronotype subtypes based on brain imaging, not just early versus late. 5 separate neural fingerprints. Each subtype shows unique patterns across brain structure, behavior, and health profiles. Chronotype is not a simple spectrum. It is multidimensional, heterogeneous. Different people reach the same sleep timing through different neural pathways. The implications are profound. There is no single optimal sleep schedule. There are multiple chronotypes, each with different needs, different strengths, different vulnerabilities. One size fits nobody. You raise your risk of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, depression, and premature death. The effects compound over years, decades, a lifetime of alarm clocks, a lifetime of sleep debt, a lifetime of circadian misalignment. The body keeps score. After being awake the same amount of time, evening types maintain better mental alertness. Their brains handle sustained wakefulness better. Morning people peak early and fade. Evening people build slowly and sustain. If you test someone at 8 in the morning, morning types look superior. Test at 8 at night, evening types dominate. The synchrony effect. Performance peaks when tested during your optimal time window. Ignore chronotype, and you measure nothing meaningful. You just measure whether the testing time happened to match someone's natural rhythm. Maintain a consistent sleep schedule, but completely changing from a morning to an evening person or vice versa is complex, nearly impossible for most. People should operate in tune with their chronotype, not against it. The costs of fighting biology exceed any benefits of conforming to social expectations. Critics point out that many intelligent people are morning types, that statistical correlations do not prove causation, that evolutionary psychology often generates untestable, just-so stories, fair criticisms. But the underlying pattern persists. Something links cognitive ability to evening preference. Not in every individual, not as destiny, but as a population-level trend, weak but real, replicated across cultures, across age groups, across measures of intelligence. The effect is there. The survivors are selected for intelligence because they need it to overcome the social jet lag penalty. Morning types face no such filter. They match the schedule. The system rewards them by default. This could explain the correlation without requiring evening preference to cause intelligence or vice versa. The association could be spurious, an artifact of a mismatched society rather than a biological truth. Another possibility involves brain plasticity and creativity. Evening types show higher scores on divergent thinking tests. Marina Giampietro and Gian Mauro Cavallera found this in 2007. 120 adults. Evening types performed better on tests, measuring the ability to generate multiple solutions to open-ended problems. Divergent thinking, creative problem solving, the kind of cognition intelligence tests partially capture. The evening hours when the world quiets may provide optimal conditions for this type of thinking. Fewer distractions, lower social demands, the freedom to explore ideas without interruption. Morning types wake into a world already busy. Evening types wake into a world winding down. The environment shapes the thought processes. The thought processes shape the cognitive profile. Chronotype shifts across the lifespan. Children are relatively early. Adolescents shift dramatically toward eveningness. Teens would naturally sleep at 1 in the morning and wake at 10 if allowed. But school starts at 8, sometimes 7:30. The mismatch is maximum during the years of brain development, the years that shape adult cognition, the years that correlate with academic achievement and IQ trajectories. Teens who suffer the greatest social jet lag may experience impaired cognitive development, lower grades despite equal potential. The evening teens who succeed, despite the handicap, may be disproportionately those with higher underlying ability. Again, a selection effect rather than a causal relationship, some social, some developmental. The correlations we observe are the combined result of many small effects interacting across time and context. Teasing them apart requires better data. Longitudinal studies tracking individuals from childhood to adulthood with objective measures of chronotype, not just questionnaires. Intervention studies that improve sleep timing and test whether cognitive performance increases. Genetic studies linking chronotype genes to intelligence genes to map causal pathways. The research is ongoing. The answers are incomplete. The alarm clock is not neutral. It is a medical device producing chronic harm. Every morning you hit snooze, you're making a choice. Conform to society and pay with your body, or protect your body and face social consequences. Most people choose conformity. The price shows up years later in blood work, in weight, in inflammation markers. in brain scans, in disease diagnoses, in obituaries. Schools could start later. High schools that delay start times from 7:30 to 8:30 see improvements in attendance, grades, mood, and car accident rates among students. The evidence is overwhelming, but most districts refuse to change. Work could allow flexible hours. Remote work already proved millions of jobs do not require presence at 9 in the morning. Many companies now offer flexible schedules, core hours, results-oriented work environments. But most still enforce morning schedules. The 9 to 5 persists as cultural inertia rather than economic necessity. Society could recognize chronotype diversity the way it recognizes other forms of human variation. Instead, we pretend everyone is the same. We design systems for an imaginary average person who does not exist, and we punish those who deviate. The research on shift work provides a grim preview. Night shift workers experience dramatically increased rates of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, and mortality. The disruption is extreme, but the mechanism is the same: circadian misalignment, forcing the body to operate at times that contradict its internal signals. Social jet lag is a milder version of the same phenomenon. Millions of people effectively work permanent night shifts, not because their jobs require it, but because their chronotypes require it. They are night people forced into day schedules. The health effects accumulate. The epidemiological studies track the damage. The mortality curves diverge. Quantify the mismatch. Use the Munich chronotype questionnaire, free online. 7 minutes. It calculates your biological sleep midpoint, compares it to your actual sleep midpoint on workdays. The difference is your social jet lag. Over 1 hour is significant. Over 2 hours is severe. Many people live with 3 or 4 hours of social jet lag every single week, for years, for decades. They do not even realize because it is normal. Everyone does it. Normal is not the same as healthy. Normal is often pathological when the environment does not match our biology. Schedule meetings in the morning if you are a morning type. Respect that humans are diverse. That optimal functioning occurs at different times for different people. That forcing everyone onto the same schedule optimizes nothing except administrative convenience. But consistently, reliably. With mechanisms we can measure and outcomes we can predict. A 1-point drop in sleep score ages your brain by 6 months. A night owl forced onto a morning schedule accumulates metabolic damage. An evening teen attending 8 a.m. classes underperforms, despite equal ability. The data is there. The solutions are obvious. But changing systems is harder than blaming individuals, so we tell people to go to bed earlier, to show more discipline, to stop being lazy. We turn a biological reality into a moral failing, and we wonder why the epidemics of obesity, diabetes, and depression keep getting worse. The brain operates on cycles. Attention waxes and wanes. Memory consolidates in specific windows. Problem solving peaks at certain hours. These cycles vary by chronotype. Evening types maintain cognitive performance later into wakefulness. Morning types peak earlier and decline faster. Neither is superior. Both are optimal for their window. The problem is the window does not match the requirements. If school tests at 8 a.m., morning types look smarter. If graduate exams are in the evening, night owls look smarter. The tests do not measure intelligence. They measure how well your chronotype matches the testing time. The correlation between intelligence and evening preference may be driven entirely by this. Smart people get jobs that let them sleep late. Less smart people get jobs that demand early mornings. We observe that smart people sleep late and conclude something biological links intelligence to eveningness. But the causation runs the other way. Intelligence provides the resources to accommodate biology rather than fight it. The privilege to say no to the alarm clock. The night owls with average IQ still have evening chronotypes. They just have no choice but to wake at 6 a.m. They suffer social jet lag. They pay the health cost. They appear in the statistics as obese, diabetic, depressed, and dying young. Not because evening preference causes disease, because forcing evening people into morning schedules causes disease. We have known this for decades. The first Munich chronotype questionnaire study was 2003, 22 years of data. The social jet lag paper was 2006, 19 years. The health consequences have been documented repeatedly in peer-reviewed journals. High-impact publications, clear results, strong effect sizes, and nothing has changed. Schools still start at 8, offices still open at 9. Society still treats sleeping late as a character flaw, because changing systems is hard. Blaming individuals is easy, and the people harmed lack the power to demand change. Evening types are disproportionately young, male, and in lower status positions. The people who set schedules are disproportionately older, morning-oriented, and high status. They design systems that work for them and pathologize everyone else. The chronotype hierarchy maps onto existing power structures. The privileged conform to the schedule. The unprivileged conform or die trying. But 45% of studies involving adults aged 18 to 45 show a synchrony effect. Superior performance at optimal time of day. In older adults, 83% of studies show synchrony effects, especially on tasks involving fluid abilities, attention, inhibition, memory. Morning types tested in the morning beat evening types. Evening types tested in the evening beat morning types. The lesson is simple. Time matters. Test people when they are awake and alert, performance improves. Test people when they are tired and sluggish, performance declines. This should be obvious, but it is ignored in schools, in workplaces, in medical testing, in research studies. We act as if time of day is irrelevant, as if humans are machines that operate at constant efficiency. We are not. We are biological organisms with rhythms. Ignore the rhythms and the measurements are garbage. The inertia is cultural. The assumption that busyness signals productivity, that presence signals commitment, that if you are not in the office at 9, you are not working hard. These assumptions are false, but they persist. And millions of evening types suffer because changing management philosophy is harder than changing sleep schedules. Teenager sleep researchers have been screaming about this for 30 years. Start high school later. The data is overwhelming. But school boards worry about bus schedules, sports practice times, after-school jobs. Parents worry about childcare. Nobody worries about the decades of accumulated health damage from forcing teens to wake at 6 a.m. when their circadian phase wants 10 a.m. The priorities are backwards. We sacrifice long-term health for short-term convenience, and we pretend it is the students who lack discipline. When the schools reopened, the lesson was ignored. Back to 8 a.m. start times, back to social jet lag, back to chronic sleep deprivation. Because we have always done it this way. Because changing is hard. Because the people harmed are children with no power to change the system that harms them. Cancer chemotherapy administered at certain hours has better efficacy and fewer side effects. Medication timing can optimize therapeutic effects. Surgery scheduled according to circadian factors may improve outcomes, but implementation is minimal. Clinical trials rarely account for chronotype. Medical appointments are scheduled for administrative convenience, not patient circadian phase. We have the knowledge, we ignore the knowledge. The gap between research and practice is a chasm. Avoid bright light in the evening to prevent further delays. Maintain consistent sleep schedules, even on weekends if possible. Minimize social jet lag. The less you swing between work and free days, the better. Consider your job choices. If you have the option, choose work that allows flexible hours or later start times. If you can work remotely, do it. If you can set your own schedule, do it. If you have the intelligence and resources to design your life around your chronotype, use them. Advocate for systemic change. Push for later school start times. Support flexible work policies. Vote for leaders who prioritize health over convenience. Educate others. Share the research. Make chronotype visible as a legitimate form of human diversity rather than a personal failing. 15,000 participants in the Ad Health study, 26,000 in the Imperial College study, 27,000 in the UK Biobank Brain Aging study, 477,000 in the Cognitive Function study, thousands more across dozens of smaller investigations. The pattern is consistent. Evening types show cognitive advantages on some measures. Social jet lag damages health across multiple systems. Fighting your chronotype accumulates harm over decades. The optimal solution is not to force night owls to become morning larks. It is to design systems that accommodate chronotype diversity. Let people sleep when their bodies demand sleep. Let them work when their brains are sharp. Measure output, not hours. Value health over conformity. The benefits would be enormous. The costs of current systems are hidden in chronic disease rates, mental health crises, obesity epidemics, and premature mortality. We pay the price, we just do not see the invoice. In insulin resistance, in inflammatory markers, in brain structure, in cognitive performance, in mortality risk. The conflict is real. It is not in your head, it is in your cells, your tissues, your organs, your neural networks. The metabolism destabilizes, the cardiovascular system strains, the immune system weakens, the effects compound year after year, decade after decade, until the diagnosis arrives: type 2, diabetes, hypertension, depression, cardiovascular disease, dementia, the chronic diseases of modern life, blamed on diet, on exercise, on genetics, on stress. But underneath, for millions of people, the cause is simpler: chronic circadian misalignment, a lifetime of social jet lag, a lifetime of fighting biology to conform to arbitrary social schedules, 6 months per point on the sleep score, 5 points total. If you score 0 instead of 5, your brain is 2.5 years older than it should be. 2.5 years, gone, stolen by alarm clocks and social expectations, by school schedules and work demands, by a society that values conformity over biology, over health, over life itself, each with unique brain patterns, unique health profiles, unique behavioral characteristics. You're not just early or late, you are a specific subtype with specific needs, but nobody measures it, nobody asks, nobody adjusts systems to accommodate the reality. We pretend everyone is the same, we design one-size-fits-all schedules, and we blame the people who do not fit, the evening types, the night owls. The ones who stay up late and struggle to wake early. We call them lazy, undisciplined, lacking willpower. We ignore the brain scans showing structural differences. We ignore the health data showing metabolic consequences. We ignore the mortality studies showing premature death. We ignore the science because accepting it would require changing systems. And changing systems is hard. In years of life lost, in quality of life destroyed, in potential unfulfilled, the smart kid who drops out because 8 a.m. classes feel impossible, the talented employee who gets fired for repeated lateness despite excellent work, the creative mind that never flourishes because every morning starts with defeating exhaustion, the health that deteriorates slowly over decades until the diagnosis arrives. The statistics are clear. The mechanisms are understood, the solutions are known, and we do nothing because the people harmed are dispersed, because the costs are delayed, because blaming individuals is easier than fixing systems. You will power through, you will function. But at what cost? How many years are you trading for conformity? How much health are you sacrificing? How much cognitive performance are you leaving on the table because society demands you wake at a time your brain rejects? Sleep when your body wants and face social consequences? Or conform to the schedule and face biological consequences? Most people choose biology because the social costs are immediate and visible. The biological costs are delayed and hidden, but both are real. Both accumulate. And the research is clear about which choice produces better health outcomes, better cognitive function, longer life, the choice that respects biology, the choice that honors your chronotype, the choice to stop fighting who you are. And fighting biology has consequences the science can measure and predict. And the evening types who maintain 7 to 9 hours of sleep and minimize social jet lag do even better. The combination of chronotype advantage and adequate sleep stacks. The evening types who fight their biology to conform do worse. The costs of conformity exceed the benefits. The data is there, published, peer-reviewed, replicated, ignored. You can stop apologizing for when you naturally sleep. You can demand that systems accommodate diversity instead of punishing it. You can recognize that the alarm clock is not neutral. It is a tool of conformity that produces measurable harm in people whose chronotypes do not match its demands. You can refuse to internalize blame for biological realities. You can share the research. You can change the conversation. One person, one interaction, one schedule adjustment, until the accumulated weight of evidence and advocacy forces systemic change. The solutions are available, and you can choose whether to conform and pay the price or protect your biology and face the social costs. But at least now you know what the price is. 1 year of brain aging, increased inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, cardiovascular risk, premature mortality, measured, quantified, published in the highest tier journals by researchers at the world's leading institutions, based on data from tens of thousands of participants tracked for years or decades, until the inflammation markers rise, until the metabolic syndrome develops, until the cardiovascular event happens, until the diagnosis arrives, until the obituary is written earlier than it should be. Because you spent a lifetime waking when your body demanded sleep. Because society valued conformity over health. Because nobody told you the science. Because nobody changed the system. Because the alarm clock kept ringing and you kept answering, and the debt kept accumulating and the body kept the score. The score is in, the data is clear, and the verdict is simple. Smart people go to bed late, and fighting it might be killing you.